Hey guys! So a lot of like the random questions that I'll ask like at the end of every circle is like, okay, do you guys have any additional questions? And it's like always about roommates and like dorm living. We wanted to film this video together. This is my college roommate.
I'm Grace.
So we decided we would kind of talk about how our experience went, and like we kind of got really lucky because we ended up liking each other. We kind of wanted to walk through some of just the different things that might happen for you as a roommate, just what it's like to live with somebody, I guess, in general. I think like before you go to school, no matter what, you're just like always kind of nervous.
Even though we do get along really well, still like living with someone constantly, like there's just things that you can do that like will help your relationship.
So first, how we kind of found each other. So Grace and I did not know each other before college. We met on the Facebook page. You basically like put a little blurb about yourself and like pictures and stuff. So Grace slid into my DMs.
It was very awkward at first. I was like, oh my gosh, I was so worried about the whole roommate thing. I was like stalking everybody on every social media platform. I found Josie and I was like, oh, she looks decent, you know? And we had like a mutual friend. So of course I like text that friend, hey, like what do you know about this Josie girl? The roommate pairing phase is like weird. It's kind of like online dating.
You like go out for a little first date. We had ours at Panera.
We like met up a couple times during the summer just because we were like super excited about decorating our dorm and stuff. That was kind of nice because the first day moving in, like there's so much like new stuff coming at you, and like we at least kind of knew each other. And so that first night when we were just like stuck there like on our own, we were already like a little bit like friends at that point, like felt somewhat comfortable with each other.
One of my biggest things I was nervous about, I'm the only girl in my family, so I was like super nervous about like sharing stuff. I've never had a sister before. I don't know what any of that is like, and I've always like just kind of had everything that's my own.
Honestly, I was just like the kind of person that like I was like, I want to be friends with my roommate. I just was really worried about like finding somebody that was like similar to me.
I was also just nervous about just like having my own time, because I think a lot of times I'm used to having nobody around, but like at school there's always people around, so it's just kind of like, when will I get my free time? First impression,
I kind of thought you were like quieter, and then I was like, oh no, like is she gonna think I'm like freakishly like loud and crazy?
When I first like saw you, I remember being like, oh wow, her makeup looks really good. She seems like kind of put together. And I was like so nervous about what to wear before we met up, so I ended up wearing like a sweatshirt and leggings. Ooh. Okay, the next thing we wanted to talk about was weird things we've kind of learned about each other since living together. Grace takes so many naps. She is an excessive napper. I'm almost concerned.
I do take a lot of naps. Josie is like very like every morning she like makes the same thing. She'll eat oatmeal every morning. She has the same exact routine every day. Every single night she'll eat like Oreos and peanut butter.
I don't eat them every night. That's nice.
Her planner is like ridiculous, nutso highlighted everywhere, sticky notes. I'm just not like that. So that I think was like funny to me to just like see someone like that.
Grace is just like, it's kind of like the opposite, kind of opposites in the way that we like live almost. We're very alike in a lot of ways, but we're also very different in the way that she's just like a lot more like laid back. I'm more just like she said, just very, I'm like low-key OCD. The best part about having a roommate, I think the best part is just kind of like having someone to talk to all the time. Just having someone that you can constantly just be like, hey, can you go get food with me? Some of my favorite moments are just us like having really deep talks at night. We're supposed to be asleep.
I would agree. I think the transition to college is just like super, super crazy. Even if you're not like super, super close with your roommate, just like having that person, regardless of whether you're good friends or not, like you're gonna be pretty close with that person. You live with that person, and so just having somebody you can just text, be like, hey, let's go get lunch, or like they just kind of like know your schedule, or like if you've like had a bad day, like having somebody who you don't even necessarily have to tell, they just kind of like are always like there.
The worst part about having a roommate, I think the worst part is just not always having like the alone time you need, I guess. I don't really have a lot of complaints, honestly.
I always thought I was like super, super extroverted, and I think college taught me that like I'm not as much as like I thought originally. College, you're just like surrounded by people like 24/7. I got super, super tired of that, like more than I thought I would. Just like, oh my gosh, I need some time for like me. There would be some times where like I would, you know, be at class and I would want to come back to the room like just me. Like not that it was even anything against her, but like
you just like, need alone time.
Yeah.
Not that it's always bad, but you do have to take into consideration like, I want my brother to visit this weekend, and then you have to like always relay it back to, not that that's always a bad thing, because like we never had a problem with that. Some people might, you know, you have to be concerned, or what the temperature in the room is, and just like random stuff like that. You have to be conscious of like, the other person
there takes like some sacrifice and like a lot lot of like communication
Oh
for
my
like
gosh, yeah.
people's schedules, bedtime, classes. We never had like our mornings start at the same time. So like one of us always had an 8 a.m. and the other one didn't. There was always one person like wrestling around in the room, like getting ready. You know, not that caused like fights, but it's like a little thing that like you have to like just take into consideration.
Like she kind of said, communication is really key. So we were really, really good about communication the entire year, I would say, for the most part. We didn't really have any fallouts or anything. We kept joking that like, is this our fight? Like, is this what we're getting in a fight about?
I definitely think that there were times both of us would kind of want to like personally like roll our eyes at the other. We always like talked about it. There were girls in our hall or people that we knew also that like would have like similar, like very understandable little like arguments. I mean, you're living with this person all the time. Like there's bound to be things that you each do that drives the other one
It's
bonkers.
normal.
Rather than like thinking about it so much, talking to your roommate about it, I mean, it doesn't seem that hard. And like sometimes it's uncomfortable talking about that stuff. Honestly, you can like, you know, get through that so much better in my opinion.
For example, Grace like doesn't do the dishes very much, like, which is like fine. It's just like something I've learned about her. She's always very good about like, I'm gonna do the dishes, like don't do them, because I'm just like I have to clean everything all the time. I'm just weird. She's very like, I'm gonna do the dishes, didn't get around to it yet, but like please leave them for me.
It's like otherwise Josie would have done that probably like 99% of the time, and she would have been like, oh my gosh, Grace never does the dishes. Like that honestly could have turned into like
something big.
I hate my roommate, she's a slob, like all this stuff.
We had a lot of dishes because we had probably 13 mugs or more, so we were always doing dishes.
Do you ever get tired of each other?
Personally, I don't really get that tired of her. So we had the different gaps in the morning of when our schedules like didn't align. So we always pretty much had like at least an hour to kind of do our own thing, to make my bed and be alone and turn my music on and do my thing. And I think that helped us out a lot because we both had that for ourselves.
Yeah, I would say like not necessarily like, oh my gosh, I can't stand being around her anymore. Just like I need to get away from everybody. We realized that like we couldn't work in the room, especially when the other person was in there.
Yeah.
Ways we held each other accountable. Halfway through the year, I think is like when we kind of started it. A goal for ourselves that we had in college, especially just like our first year of college, was like to like personally like grow in our faith. We were like, you know, like what if we like started like praying together at night? We kind of just started doing that just to hold each other accountable for like growing our faith.
That was like one of my favorite things we did together, honestly.
Like it turned into something that we both like really, really liked, and like we'd be like, you know, lights off, like ready to go to bed, and like one of us would be like, do you want to pray? Another one that we wanted to talk about was like keeping each other accountable and mental health, and like also like just self-care. I came back after Christmas break and was like in a total slump. I told Josie,
when you live with someone for so long, you kind of just like also can just pick up on hints of like when they're having a terrible time or like when they're just like going through something. Your roommate, something seems like they're wrong, just like ask, like be a nice person. You don't have to be their best friend, like just ask them. We always just remind them to give themselves grace and like this is okay that you feel like this and you'll get through it. Towards the end of the year, I like pulled this weird muscle in my neck and like I couldn't move my head for like a couple days. It was really weird. But Grace like is just like, Josie, like you've been working so hard, like don't you think this is just like a sign that you need to lay in bed for a little bit and do nothing? She just like reminds me a lot of like, dude, chill, like why are you running around like a crazy person with your head cut off all the time? Like, you know what I mean?
She does.
Like, I'm just like, okay, what can I do next? What can I do next?
And Josie would kind of do the same for me, just like keeping me accountable, like maybe even like the things I didn't want to hear. She'd be like, Grace, get up, like go shower and make your bed. Boys and visitors.
I don't really think we didn't have like too much conflict with this. Usually we were pretty open.
As far as boys go, I mean, I didn't have a boyfriend at all, so it was easy for Josie. We were both kind of like okay with being the room that everybody hung out in. Maybe like there were some times where somebody would knock on the door and Josie would be like, no.
Sometimes I'm just like yeah, I think it's just like all about courtesy, like all the time. You need to communicate if you want someone to come over, if you're gonna be loud and watch a video, or like put your like little things. Grace would always get like concerned when I put headphones in.
I thought she was mad at me. Sharing stuff.
Grace gets so mad when I ask her to borrow stuff because she's had a sister her whole life and they share everything. So it was so weird for me to be like, oh, I can just like take your clothes. And more times than not, I'm wearing Grace's clothes. Honestly, most of my Instagram pictures are in your clothes. We shared pretty much everything except for some reason we always used our own hair straighteners. That's like the only thing we didn't share.
And we had our own things of coffee creamer.
Grace like uses so much. And you like the more expensive kind. I like the Kroger kind because it's less money.
I'm willing to splurge on coffee creamer, people, okay? It's worth it. Kind of drives me nuts. Like, I realized Josie was like asking me all the time, like, do you mind if I like wear this? And I'm like, dude, just like stop asking. I would
never
just like go in her
me.
closet.
And more times than not, we would be in each other's clothes.
Yeah, but like also that's something like don't just do that.
Yeah,
like I would definitely talk to your roommate about it. Favorite memory of the two of us at college?
Just in general, I loved the fact that, like, I would go to the library and be like, okay, Grace,
Like,
I'm
all
going to
the
the
time.
library. And then I would be in there doing my thing, like, grinding it out. Suddenly, I either get a text or she just pops up, hey, like, in the library. And it's, like, dead silent, and it's just, like, randomly Grace shows up.
Mine, I was having like a midlife crisis. Josie's aunt gave us some money to go get our nails done together. Then we were like, you know what, let's make a whole day out of it. Shopping, like having so much fun, a super good day. We get our nails done and I pick out my color and everything. They're painting mine and I see Josie just waiting there and they're like, oh, someone took the color she wanted. Meanwhile, like we're like across the room from each other.
We're not even close by.
Yeah.
Like, haven't even spoken to her since.
And there's like, 7,000 colors you can pick from. Well, we both choose the same color.
I'm like, are you kidding me?
It was so funny.
We have like a big group of friends that we always hang out with. Sometimes it's just nice, like when it's just like me and Grace get to have like a little roomie time. Like,
Yeah.
it's just kind of fun. Do we have a roommate agreement or a set of rules? At the beginning of the year, we kind of had to make one with our RA.
I think there was some kind of like
Unspoken rules.
yeah, like when the dish cart gets full of dishes,
Go
like,
do
you
the dishes.
But another one was like we made our beds every single day. Your rooms are so small, and that's like your only space to hang out. If I came back into the room and my bed wasn't made, I would like feel like obligated to be like, sorry, I didn't make my bed today.
One other thing that's like kind of weird, if you actually physically unmake the bed and like get into it, like you're going to bed for the night. Like, so if it's like 2 o'clock in the afternoon, you get under the covers, like it's game over.
Shoot! How has your roommate impacted your social life?
Pretty much all my friends are because of Grace. Sort of kidding, but sort of not. Like, we ended up being friends with, like, our best friends were in her, like, orientation group, or one of them was, and then, like, another one of our friends that we're living with next year, like, Grace knew before.
Okay, something else that we did as roommates that was like super fun. At the beginning of the year, we made like a roommate like freshman year bucket list. We didn't get them all done.
Towards the end, we were really pushing it with some of the stuff.
Yeah, we were kind of starting to be like, and that's close enough. Netflix and Chinese, visiting each other's hometown, meeting each other's high school best friends, having a shopping day.
Going to, like, different sporting events, like, around
going
Cincinnati.
to a concert. Like, there's just a bunch of them. Are we living together next year?
Yes. The space we're living in next year is actually only meant for 4 people, but we're living with 5, so Grace and I get to share a room again.
And it's like a single room, so it's going to be even smaller than our dorm room. So please pray for us.
Looking forward to it. How have you changed because of the other person? Just because of Grace, I'm just like a lot more willing to like go for things that would originally scare me. I'm also like a little bit more laid back, and the whole sharing clothes thing, like we already said.
I definitely like got better at like making a routine for myself, and probably part of it was just like college in general because time management is like nutso. Josie like kind of planning ahead and like just like seeing her working on homework like 6 days in advance, and I'm like doing something that's due in like 20 minutes.
The biggest takeaways that we have kind of just from living with someone else in general is communicate with the other person, talk about everything.
If you're having like a bad day or you're struggling with something or there's something going on at home, whether you're close with your roommate or not, I think that's like just a good person to like bounce things off of. Living with someone else is super fun. It's definitely just like a huge adjustment living in like a tiny space with somebody. Dorm life is the best.
Dorm life is the best. Okay, so that's kind of like all we have for you guys. If you like have other questions that you want answered by either one of us, you can either leave them on Instagram or here or wherever you want to slide into the DM. Hope you guys enjoyed kind of hearing just a little bit about like what it might look like to live with someone next year. And obviously we're a success story. Hopefully you can take some of this, and even if you end up not loving your roommate, there's a lot that can still be applied. If you end up like hating your roommate or just not connecting at all, that's okay. And a lot of times schools are more than willing to help you like switch around. We know plenty of girls who switch like literally 4 or 5 times. You don't have to be best friends with your roommate. Like I know a lot of people also who just like they live with them, and that's fine. And you'll find other places to hang out outside of your dorm room. Like it doesn't have to be, your roommate doesn't have to be your best friend. Like you are so going to like find other people. So don't freak out if you don't end up like being your best friend with your roommate. All right, people, so that's kind of all we got for you. So thank you so much for watching, and we will see you next time.
See ya.